So I'm just going to keep on working in the round with my 2x2 ribbing. When I get to this point right here, I will talk to you about what I'm going to do when I get closer. Okay, so now I'm a little closer, and as you can see, I'm just starting to have my needle start coming out. So before it comes out too far, I have two choices. I can knit to the end and then push this needle in and pull this needle back, or I can simply reach around to another spot in my cable and make a new loop. Now, as soon as I make a new loop, I try to let it cross like this. Do you see that? And that is how I keep it from stretching. If I hold it open like this, it's stretching my stitches out. But if I let it cross, then that holds the stitches together and I don't really need to worry. I pulled it out at this point because now I can knit all the way around to this spot, and here's the beginning of my round. So I did it before the beginning of my round, and then I just keep knitting around. And again, I'm triple checking. I just constantly do this to make sure that I'm all flat and even, and I am still. So I'm just going to keep working my 2x2 ribbing for this pattern, starting with 2 purl stitches, 2 purls, 2 knits for 10 rounds, moving my loop around as I go. And that's what I'll do. I'll check back in with you, and it's just the loops just moved around when it seems like it's time to move it around. So I'll come back and talk to you when I have finished with my 2x2 ribbing, and we'll see what that looks like. Okay, so I'm almost at the end of my 10 rows before I start my next patterning, and I just wanted to show again how I've kind of gotten into the rhythm of how I change. So I just kind of knit until I'm just about to the end. I pull my thing in, and then what I'll do is I'll look to where there's a pattern repeat. In this case it's purl 1, purl 2, knit 2. So I'll just look to where it's purl 2, knit 2, and then I'll split, and I just pull this out, and then I let it cross, and then I'm ready to keep going. Here's the beginning of my round. As I go through, I'll use this pencil that's here, and I look here and I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So counting up, I count. This is my beginning. This is my first purl stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just count up the purl bumps. I have 9 here. I need 1 more round. So I'm going to finish these 2, which is going to be the last of my 9th round. Then I'm going to go around 1 more time, and then I'll start my patterning. Again, just going around until I'll go around until my needle's about right here. Then I'll just pull up another section over here and just pull the loop out. And you just get into a little rhythm and a pattern. And again, I let it cross like this so that I don't have this extra pull. So I don't have that extra pull. So I just leave it crossed. The other little trick is that sometimes I just need to, if my needle is twisted like this, it's going to pull. So I just twist my needle around until it's back over. Okay. All right, so I'm coming around. I've got my loop right here. It's just about to the point where they're going to start poking out. And then I'm going to just look over here to where I have purl 2, knit 2. Right after my knit 2, I'll just pull it out. Move it around, and it's all changed. So one of the things to keep in mind is that when you're doing magic loop, you want to start with a little bit bigger loop. If you get frustrated, it could be because your cable is a little too small. You may want to get a little bigger cable. There's kind of a sweet spot between having your cable too long and having your cable too short. If your cable's too short, then you're going to end up frustrated and feeling like you're fighting it because you don't have enough, and it's going to keep popping back in. And it's going to be harder to move around. If it's too long, then you've just got extra cable that you're pulling through, and you've got extra cable hanging around, kind of getting in the way of your knitting too. So it's kind of a happy medium. And you may want to start with a little bit longer and then go to a little bit shorter. It just depends on what works best for you, and you may need to experiment. If you are having frustrations, try increasing or shrinking your cable needle, and still keep trying magic loop, because sometimes that can be part of the issue. So I'm going to finish this round, and then right here I'm going to start the patterning. Then I'm going to do my rise, still working around, and then when I start my crown decreases, I'll check back in as I'm doing my rise. I'll check back in and show you my progress, but I'll also definitely talk to you again when we're doing the crown decreases, because that changes because you get more and more and more cable, and there's a certain point at which you need to change your technique slightly. So I'll check back in when this project's a little farther along. I've completed the rise of the hat, and I put a lifeline in here just to mark where the rise of the hat ended, so that you guys could start seeing the decreases. So as you can see, now I'm starting to do decreases. And decreases and decrease patterns are different with every hat, and they can be changed to have different effects. But you can see I'm having fewer and fewer. So now instead of having 6 stitches in this section, now I only have 2. I only have 2 stitches in that section. So I've decreased that many. Again, I'm still using the same exact same technique. I'm still using the exact same technique with the magic loop. And my loop is just going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and I might have to switch, change where my loop is sooner. And right now I could change where my loop is. I'll show you what that would look like. I don't want to move it, even though I really kind of could move it right here. I don't want to move it right here so that my stitch marker, my beginning of round, is sitting in the middle of a round, or sitting where it could fall off the needle. So I'm just going to make a loop and then just let it twist like that. And now I'm ready to keep working. So it will keep getting smaller and smaller. I have shorter needles, which can help. Sometimes it can help to have the shorter needles. You don't have to use shorter needles. You can do this with longer needles just fine. And what I mean by longer needles is I mean the tips. The longer tips for interchangeables. These are the little short tips. So I'm just going to keep decreasing, and when I need to do something, as soon as this hits the point that I need to do something other than what I'm currently doing, there will reach a point where there are too few stitches even for this length. and I'll show you what I do then. Alright, so I'm continuing my crown decreases, and I have reached a point that I have a very small circumference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of divide them in half. So I'm going to have a loop on each side. So I just pull out, and it doesn't exactly matter. It's a little nice if you can do it where you're not having, where you're not doing decreases. So you're not having to decrease over this too much of the time. So I pulled it out and I put that little twist in it. Now I'm going to be working like this. Now I can adjust this and change it as I need to, and change where this loop comes out as my stitches get smaller and smaller, but most of the time I'm going to be working with and you can see I just turn this needle around. I'll do that again so you can see. So I just turn this needle until I get that twist. And now it'll stay nice and closed. So as I do the rest of these decreases, I'll continue to check in with you and show you how I'm doing my management. So I have a chance to show you what I'm talking about. Here, my instructions call me to knit 2 together and then SSK, but I only have this one stitch. So I can do a couple of different things. I can move this stitch over right now. I can do what I'm about to do, which is do this knit 2 together. Then I'm just going to pull my cable out. So I've done my knit 2 together here. My needles are like this, but I need to knit this other side. So I need to turn this around, push my needle in, and pull this needle out. And now I'm ready to do my other decreases. And the end of my round is right here. So yes, I will have to do the next 2 stitches for the next round. So I'll just, but the end of my round is right here, so I don't lose my marker. So I have stitches on this needle after the end of the round. And you notice I just turned that so that that was crossed. Sorry, let's see. So I just turned it so this is crossed again. And as I'm taking my stitch right here, I'm just letting this cross so that it will be in that crossed position. Okay, I'm right here. At the end of my round, I'm going to slip this stitch marker. And then my next round calls for all stitches to be knit. So as you notice, I just turned my work, then hanging on to everything, fed my needle I just used back in, and then I pull out my right hand needle. And I get ready to work, and I'm just knitting all of these stitches all the way around. Now, again, I can let that drop, pull that out just a little bit, turn, slide my left needle in, and pull my right needle out. Okay, so I reached the end of my round, so I'm just going to continue in this way with basically half the stitches on one needle and half the stitches on the other needle. And when if I needed to stop, I would leave it like this and put it in my project bag. And then when I was ready to start, I would just pick it up, slide my left needle in. My working yarn always comes off of my right needle when I'm in the round. And when you're knitting too, your working yarn is going to come off your right needle. So if you're wondering which side, if you stop mid-row, your working yarn is always coming off the needle that's in your right hand, so you can pick it up and start working the stitches that haven't been worked. So working yarn is coming off my right needle. So the working yarn is coming off my right needle. I know it's way back there. My needle's kind of up here, but this is my working yarn, and this continuation is really my right needle. Okay. So that's how you work the magic loop. I'm just going to work till I have this particular pattern calls for all of the decreases to be worked until you're right at the very end. I'll show you right when I get to the very end how I do those few stitches, but this is the basic idea. So here I am at my final row. I've done my first knit two together, and my last row is just a whole series of knit two togethers. I'm still working on the half on one side, half on the other side. And the point of this, you could switch to DPNs, but the point of this is to show that you can knit the whole hat on the same needle. You don't ever have to switch needles. You don't have to worry about having an extra pair of needles or whether you have the right size or anything else, because you've got your needles. That's the whole idea here. Okay, so with my 7 stitches left, I can pull my needles out and have them together like that. I can leave them split like this while I weave this tail through these stitches. While I weave my tail through these stitches here. So cut, weave my tail in, and then weave it down in, and that's how you work magic loop. I hope you found value in this tutorial. If you have, please consider a one-time payment via PayPal or a regular subscription via Patreon. The links are down below and they are on the screen. Again, thank you for joining me. See you next time.